HITT Flexor Stretch series. We're going to go through a half kneeling position to really focus on a posterior pelvic tilt. This is where you squeeze the bum and rock the tailbone under using the abdominals to help lengthen the front of the thigh and the hip flexor. Try and make sure you don't drive forward into the stretch because this cranks into the lumbar spine and doesn't actually increase the length of the hip flexors themselves. So when you've got that glute on, tailbone tucked under, from there we can start to increase the upper body movement. So if you put the same side arm up in the air, drive the fingertips upwards and then softly lean away from the stretched hip flexor. Always maintaining the pelvic tilt throughout these arm variations. You can add rotation by twisting away from the stretched hip. Now if I want to ramp up the amount of hamstring activation, we go back into that posterior pelvic tilt, but now you can try to raise the rear foot off the floor. This increases the activation of the hamstring at the knee flexor and increases the amount of stretch you'll get going through that hip flexor. Try not to raise the foot too high because this one can bring on cramp. Now from there, bring it into standing stance. When you stand up, make sure you're bending through all the toe joints on the back foot and focus on that posterior tilt so you're feeling the hip flexor stretch. And then from there, you can add exact same arm drivers. So you can lean away from the stretch side and you can add rotation. But the focus here is always to maintain that posterior pelvic tilt throughout when adding any arm drivers into these stretches.